The Airbus A340-200 was the aircraft that started it all for the quad-jet family, entering service with Lufthansa in March 1993 on the Frankfurt to New York route. It was the shortest member of the A340 family, stretching just under 59 meters, and was designed from the ground up to connect city pairs that no twin-engine jet of the era could legally serve without ETOPS certification. Powered by four CFM56-5C engines, producing around 34,000 pounds of thrust each, it carried between 210 and 260 passengers across a range of up to 15,000 kilometers. Air France was a major early operator, using it to open thin intercontinental routes that simply didn't have the demand to justify a 747. Despite being the founding member of the family, the 200 was commercially overshadowed by the more popular 300, almost from day one, and only 28 examples were ever delivered, before Airbus shifted its focus to the longer variant. Today, virtually none remain in commercial service, with most having been retired or converted for cargo and government use over the past decade. The Airbus A340-300 is the definitive version of the original A340 family, and by far its most commercially successful variant, accounting for around 200 of the 377 aircraft the program produced in total. Stretching just over 63 meters with a capacity of up to 295 passengers in a three-class layout, it entered service in March 1993 alongside the 200, with launch customers Lufthansa and Air France. Powered by four CFM International CFM56-5C turbofans, it offered a range of approximately 13,350 kilometers, making it well suited to long, thin intercontinental routes where the traffic didn't justify a Boeing 747, but the distances ruled out the twin-engine jets of the time. Lufthansa operated the largest fleet and used it extensively across Europe to North America and Asia routes for over a decade. Singapore Airlines, Swiss, and South African Airways were among the other major operators. The 300 competed directly with the Boeing 777-200 through much of the 1990s and held its own commercially until fuel prices rose sharply in the mid-2000s and four-engine economics became increasingly difficult to defend against the more efficient 777-300ER. The Airbus A340-300 HGW, or high gross weight variant, was a structural upgrade to the standard 300 that raised the maximum takeoff weight and added center fuel tank capacity to extend its already impressive range. The modification was driven by airline demand for more payload range flexibility, particularly for routes where the standard 300's limits were too restrictive to carry a full passenger load alongside sufficient fuel for the complete journey. With strengthened wing attachment points, a reinforced undercarriage, and an optional additional center fuel tank, the HGW version extended the aircraft's range capability to over 13,700 kilometers fully loaded. It retained the same CFM56-5C engine family as the standard 300, meaning that from a pilot and maintenance standpoint, the two variants were essentially identical to operate. The upgrade was particularly valued by airlines on transatlantic routes, where payload and range had to be carefully balanced, depending on headwind conditions and seasonal demand. While not a dramatically different aircraft in appearance or handling, the HGW designation represented a meaningful commercial improvement that kept the 300 competitive into the late 2000s against an increasingly capable twin-engine competition. The Airbus A340-500 was the longest-range member of the original A340 family and one of the most ambitious commercial aircraft Airbus ever built. Designed specifically to operate non-stop on routes of up to 16,670 kilometers. Launched alongside the 600 in December 1997 and entering service with Singapore Airlines in 2004, it introduced an entirely new power plant in the form of four Rolls-Royce Trent 553 engines, replacing the CFM56S of the earlier 200 and 300 variants. At 67.9 meters long, it stretched the A340-300 fuselage by over 4 meters and added a significantly enlarged wing, with increased fuel capacity approaching 215,000 liters. Singapore Airlines used it to operate the world's longest non-stop flights at the time, connecting Singapore to Newark and Los Angeles without a single fuel stop. The route was commercially and operationally groundbreaking. However, the 500 carried a relatively small passenger count of around 250 to 300 in typical configurations, despite its enormous fuel load, making its seat-mile economics deeply unattractive once fuel prices climbed sharply after 2005. Only 34 examples were ever delivered across 6 airlines, making it one of the rarest and most economically troubled commercial widebody jets of its generation. The Airbus A340-500 IGW, standing for Increased Gross Weight, was the refined and upgraded production version of the A340-500 that addressed some of the range and payload limitations of the baseline model by pushing the maximum takeoff weight up to 380 tons. It first flew in October 2006 and entered service with Thai Airways International in April 2007, using the strengthened structure and enlarged fuel system originally developed for the A340-600. HGW, powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 556 engines, each rated at around 250 kilonewtons, it achieved a maximum range of 17,000 kilometers, making it one of the longest-range production aircraft of its era. Nigerian carrier Eric Air was a notable operator, using it to open non-stop services between Lagos and London Heathrow, and later Lagos to New York, routes that showcase the type's extraordinary reach. Despite these operational achievements, the IGW variant attracted very little commercial interest. The fundamental problem of carrying heavy structure and 4 engines across ultra-long routes while seating a relatively small number of passengers made it extraordinarily expensive per seat to operate, and the Boeing 777-200 LR offered comparable range with 2 engines and significantly lower fuel burn. The Airbus A340-600 was the largest and most ambitious version of the A340 family, stretching 75.36 meters from nose to tail and holding the title of the world's longest commercial passenger aircraft from its entry into service until the Boeing 747-8 arrived in 2010. Launched in December 1997 and making its first flight in April 2001, it entered commercial service with Virgin Atlantic in August 2002. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 556 engines, producing up to 249 kilonewtons of thrust each, it could seat up to 380 passengers in a 3-class layout and carry them up to 14,350 kilometers. Virgin Atlantic, Lufthansa, Air France, Cathay Pacific, and Iberia were among its key operators, using it primarily on high-demand long-haul trunk routes where its capacity could be filled. The 600 competed directly with the Boeing 777-300ER, a matchup it consistently lost on fuel economics despite offering comparable capacity. By the time production ended in 2011, only 97 examples had been delivered, a deeply disappointing total for an aircraft of its size and ambition. Today, fewer than 40 remain in active passenger service, with the type rapidly disappearing from airline fleets as more fuel-efficient alternatives have made its 4-engine operating model economically unviable. The Airbus A340-600 HGW was the high-gross weight production variant of the 600, certified in April 2006 after its first flight in November 2005, and represented Airbus's attempt to push the type's range and payload performance to its absolute limits. With a maximum takeoff weight raised to 380 tons through a combination of structural reinforcement, laser beam welding techniques in manufacturing, increased fuel capacity, and upgraded Rolls-Royce Trent 560 engines, producing nearly 275 kilonewtons of thrust each, it achieved a maximum range of 14,630 kilometers with a full passenger load. Qatar Airways was the launch customer and took delivery of the first aircraft in September 2006, initially deploying it on high-density routes to London Heathrow. Lufthansa, Virgin Atlantic, and Etihad Airways also took examples. The HGW delivered an 18% productivity improvement over the standard 600, according to Airbus, and introduced a notable first in commercial aviation, with Qatar Airways fitting a stand-up onboard business lounge between the first and business class cabins. Despite these genuine improvements, the variant attracted only modest orders, as airlines increasingly preferred the Boeing 777-300ER's twin-engine economics on the same routes. Only a handful of HGW-specific deliveries were made before the entire A340-600 program wound down. The ACJ340-300 Prestige is the corporate and government VIP derivative of the A340-300, developed by Airbus Corporate Jets and initially marketed under the A340-300 Prestige name, before being rebranded ACJ340-300 in 2011. It offers a range of approximately 14,300 kilometers in a typical VIP configuration, seating around 75 passengers, putting virtually any two cities on Earth within reach without a fuel stop. Powered by 4 CFM56-5 C4P engines, it retains the 4-engine ETOPS-free operational profile of the commercial 300, which proved highly attractive to government operators who valued the availability of the 4-engine configuration on politically sensitive routes where engine reliability perceptions mattered. Multiple heads of state and government ministries across the Middle East, Asia, and Europe have operated the type, often fitting it with bespoke interiors featuring private suites, conference rooms, medical facilities, and communication systems far beyond anything available on conventional business jets. The aircraft's wide 5.28-meter interior and 54-meter cabin length give outfitters considerably more freedom than a narrow-body corporate jet, enabling genuinely residence-like interiors. While no longer in production, over 20 examples are estimated to remain in active VIP and government service globally. The ACJ340-500 is the ultra-long-range corporate variant of the Airbus A340 family, based on the A340-500 airframe and capable of a non-stop range of approximately 18,500 kilometers in a typical VIP configuration, seating 75 passengers. That figure places it among the longest-range purpose-configured VIP transports ever produced, able to connect virtually any 2 points on the planet without refueling. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 553 engines, it combines the commercial 500's enormous fuel capacity and enlarged wing with the significantly reduced weight of a VIP passenger load instead of a full commercial complement, resulting in range performance that no equivalent wide-body twinjet could match at the time it entered service. The ACJ340-600 is the largest and most spectacular member of the ACJ340 corporate family, based on the A340-600 airframe and offering a cabin that stretches an extraordinary 54 meters in length at a width exceeding 5 meters, making it one of the most spacious single-deck private aircraft ever configured for VIP use. In a typical 25-passenger ultra-luxury layout, it achieves a range of approximately 16,700 kilometers, giving its operators true global reach with minimal compromise. Powered by 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 556 engines, it carries over 195,000 liters of fuel and maintains the ETOPS-free operational independence that many government operators specifically requested.